the German Consul General in Bangalore. She is the startup hero of Bangalore. And everybody recognizes that apart from herself, which is of course too modest. So therefore a very big applause for Miss Margit Hellwig Bötte. Some would call it badass. This lady is badass. Then from the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, and she plays a very big role in facilitating the processes when it comes to startup collaboration. And this beautiful sign was already made with the hands next to each other, which of course is a great sign of respect and appreciation. Please give it up for Amrita Gandikota. And then we have two lovely gentlemen as well, and they're part of Bosch DNA, and they're going to explain later what it actually entails. First, a big up for Aravind Raman and Vivek Kumar. Sorry? What did I do wrong?
Vivek is from Excubator.
Vivek is from Excubator.
Okay.
Oh, yes, he's from Excubator. Yes. Okay, sorry for this mistake. And we have only 2 microphones, so it's going to be a little bit of a hassle, but we're going to make sure that it works. And then the final panelist is going to be introduced by Amrita, because she, as you can see, is also on stage, is actually arranging everything live. So, and maybe you can take over then also from me.
No, yeah. I just want to welcome Ayushi. She's from Drona Maps, a startup based out of Delhi and Bangalore in India.
Give it up for Drona Maps, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you already saw her during the pitching contest on Tuesday. Yes. Okay, and we go with the Indian flow, as you can see. And we have 2 microphones, so you, as a couple, have 1 microphone, and the 3 of you. And Amrita and myself will also then share the microphone, right? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, what is really important is first that we understand who does what. So I'm going to do a very short first introduction, around 1 or 2 sentences maximum, where you explain what you do. And of course, we start with the Consul General in Bangalore. Please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi again. My name is Margit. I'm the Consul General in Bangalore. And as a Consul General, I do a lot of work on business promotion, bringing people and corporates and startups in touch. So that's why, together with the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce and Amrita, we have rallied together with a number of companies, first and foremost Bosch and SAP and Siemens Healthineers and some Indian accelerators, Accelerators and NASCOM, the Indian Association of Digital Entrepreneurs, to make sure that corporates have the right outreach to startups, and startups get access to corporates and markets and customers.
Yes, and I did not hear before from NASCOM, but I saw that many statistics, much data, so it's actually very good organization to get to know, NASCOM.
Yes, NASCOM is a little bit like Bitkom and other organizations here in Germany. So that's where all the digital entrepreneurs from India are present.
Okay, cool. And could you tell us a little bit about the size of your team? Because maybe with the Consul General, you think you have at least 200 people working for you, or how is it going in Bangalore?
I wish. I mean, the consulate does something which is actually totally different from what I'm doing. Yeah. We're running a huge visa operation, yes. Issuing 45,000 visa a year for Indians who want to travel to Germany, basically business visa. Yeah. But what our team working on the BIGSUN, the Bangalore Indo-German Startup Network, it's actually me, another colleague from the consulate, and we're doing it part-time in a way, and it's Amrita from the chamber, and that's it. And there's no secretariat, there's nothing, it's very lean, and basically the work which needs to be done is done by the corporates and the startups themselves.
Okay. Okay, so that is this is also some expectation management that when people come up to you, what you can actually do. Very interesting.
Maybe I should add,
Yes.
there is no German government money in this. So the only government involvement is me personally and part-time. Yeah, and I think to bring startups and corporates together, it needs ideas. It needs occasions, but it doesn't need a lot of money.
Thank you so much. Amrita, could you explain what you do?
Yes, so I'm Amrita. I work for the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce in Bangalore. And firstly, I'm super happy to be here. I thank Rainer, Startup Asia Berlin, and Asia Pacific Weeks that I've been invited here, and we got the opportunity to present BIGSUN also here. And to be honest, I think BIGSUN was also an idea that was conceptualized at Asia Pacific Weeks 2 years ago. So it's a nice full circle we have come, and hopefully we would be here in the next coming years also. And in the chamber, I predominantly work with the startup activities. I work along with Julian for GINSEP, Startup Asia Berlin, Alex, and now, of course, BIGSUN, which is little more focused into the Bangalorean ecosystem at the moment. And I also deal with other chamber activities, but yeah.
Yeah, could you make it a little bit more concrete for an entrepreneur?
In terms of BIGSUN, yes, acutely what BIGSUN is all about is we connect startups to corporates in terms of business collaborations, because there is mentoring, there is other kinds of association through incubators and acceleration, but what we are aiming for is to get a startup and a corporate together for collaboration in terms of making business together.
Thank you so much. Drona Maps won the pitch competition on Tuesday, convinced the jury. Great job, great pitch.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So in short, what does it do, Drona Maps, for the people who weren't there?
Sure, and I can also build on what Amrita just answered, so how come we're here. So Drona Maps is an enterprise platform for drone-based mapping, large scale, and analytics on top of it. So we have deep learning toolkits to extract data for settlements and precision agriculture. So that's what we do. And we're housed in, we're part of the incubator for SAP Startup Studio. And one of the reasons we're here is because we work heavily with German companies and also have possible integrations with other companies like, say, Daimler, or like a lot of synergies possible. So yes, it has been a great effort. And on a personal level, Margit and Amrita have been like super, super supportive. Like Margit to the point of like when I'm actually coming to Germany, she was like, tell me whenever you file for the German visa, like I'll make sure that you guys get through. So, and you get it on time. So I think like that level of support has been unprecedented. And it's very, very impressive, and we're grateful for it.
Okay, we will not pretend that we heard that. I mean, but it's very practical help that you got. But how did you meet, actually, Amrita and Margit?
So we, as I said, we were part of SAP Startup Studio. And
okay,
we
so
met
that was not through them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, other activities were, so we were already working with SAP.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think after that point, we started talking with other international organizations, including GIZ, because Margit like introduced us, and there are other synergies in international environments that we're exploring with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't wait for me, Margit. We won't do that anyway.
I don't want to disrupt your structure, but let me say something about SAP and the other corporate members of BIGSUN. We were sitting together for quite some time. Let's say after the APW in 2017, together with SAP, together with Bosch, DNA. We had Airbus on board, we had Siemens Healthineers. So all these companies based in Bangalore, they run their own accelerators. And there was a moment when they said, can't the consul or the consulate do something to bring all the German companies together and help them have the outreach to the startups which are interesting for their specific sectors? And then we roped in NASCOM, mentioned already, and Excubator, the biggest Indian accelerators, and they said, can't you help us give our startups outreach and bring them in touch with the corporates. And then I was saying, okay, right, I can do this, but why the heck do you need a boring civil servant to do this? Why can't the companies sit together and do it themselves? And this is why I found it so interesting this morning when we had the elephants sitting here, SAP and Daimler and Siemens, and they said, wow, it is so easy to cooperate. My feeling from Bangalore was that it's actually not. And it is important, if you want to bring corporates together, that you have a neutral person without any self-interest. And my self-interest in this is very limited, and actually it's not about money. So that's why I sat there, I said, okay, I can't do it, I need more help, I need Amrita and the chamber. We were doing it together. So this is how it all came into being, and that's how we met with startups and Drona Maps.
So actually, it was part of a networking session where she came with Henrik, and we were actually talking about digital transformation in smart cities. So it was very focused.
But do you recognize the problem that for Indian startups it's hard to actually reach programs from accelerators from corporates, or?
Well, reaching accelerator programs of corporates is actually not the hard part. The actual hard part is actually working with them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, reaching them is kind of like, you just fill up an application, and there is obviously like a formula to everything.
Yeah.
So, but having said that, the problem is like your typical corporate accelerator actually expects a huge amount of integration and commitment from a startup, like immediately from the start. Which is hard for a startup to actually allocate resources specifically for integrations with one company, unless and until you're talking about like actual revenue gains immediately. Having said that, we still found that like our work with SAP actually increased our reach and credibility in the government sector. We work with like B2G a lot, so it actually helped us reach a lot more clients a lot faster. So my ability to actually have a sales force is limited, and we basically reach out to these smart cities in India via like SAP and ESRI. So
B2G as in business to
business
government.
to government, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's a perfect, excellent moment for the Bosch Excubator to come in, of course. Having heard lovely compliments about what corporate accelerators can do. No, I'm joking. I mean, honestly, this is not the first time that you've heard this. How do you address those valid points from startups that you want to work with?
First of all, let me introduce myself. I think
Yes.
the introduction.
Yes. You can do that at the same time.
So I'm Aravind. I lead the strategy and business development for Bosch in India. As part of my portfolio, open innovation is one important pillar which I'm responsible for, along with Debasis works with me. So we actually scan the startup ecosystem and look for co-creating solutions together, especially in India. But we also now made a change that we will look beyond India. And if there are German startups who are willing to come to India, launch a MVP, we are ready to support them as well. This is a change which we have made. But our focus is going to be on India. So that is the portfolio which I handle. As part of Discover, Nurture and Align, the program, flagship program which we had launched 2 years back, we have actually made sure that we graduated 20 startups, out of which at least 6 startups have go-to-market agreements with us. So where they work for Bosch specified use cases, and also there is co-creation possibilities and go-to-market possibilities for which we sign agreements. So we actually are looking for startups which are working on certain themes which are in line with Bosch use cases, and then we partner with them and go to market. So that is what we look for. And we also work with various partners in the ecosystem. So the partner with whom we are working for is now Excubator for this year. And we also work with multiple partners. These partners bring to us the quality startups based on the themes which we have identified, right? So that is the ecosystem which we are talking about, and this is where Bosch wants to make a difference, giving back to the startups in terms of scale, giving market access through our our business units, and also I'm looking for German startups coming to India, and we can co-create solutions. And to add to that, the entities like BIGSUN, which Margit spoke about and Amrita spoke about, play a very pivotal role in bringing us together. As Margit rightly said, we don't talk to each other so easily, right? And if there is a platform, and if there is a Amrita who's scheduling a meeting, and we say Margit is also coming, then we are also attracted. So we come, and we then talk to each other and we co-create. So excellent platforms. Both BIGSUN and Ginsep is another platform which we are also part of.
Amrita is the platform. I like that quote very much. Yes. I mean, pay attention, right? You can leverage on this. So, short introduction, and also then hopefully the answer to the question how to make it easier for startups to work with you.
Well, so we had very humble beginning in 2014, started a startup incubator. We have actually grown along with Indian startup ecosystem. So when we started, I mean, we could hardly find 100 startups in Bangalore. Today there are 5,000 startups that get founded in India every year. Incubated 8 companies, learned a lot. At one point of time in 2016, we used to have around 50 emails per day from startups asking us to incubate them. Then that's the time when we figured out, okay, we really need a platform which can enable mass movement or mass support of startup in India, right? And with that in mind, we actually built today one of the largest network of startups, 18,000 plus, 30 plus venture capital funds and 80 plus enterprises who are constantly engaging with a lot of startups on our platforms to identify good quality startups and engage with each other. Last year, I think alone in 2018, in one form or another, we have supported 500 companies in India. And obviously, it's free for startups. I mean, the kind of volume still today we get is pretty huge. But, and coming back to, the partnerships that we have with corporates, because this is focused on corporates. I mean, we have literally seen the way corporates have evolved in India in terms of engaging with startups. So in 2014, it was about, okay, what is a startup?
Yeah.
And today it's like, please bring me right kind of startups. So it's really, it has transformed, the way innovation is happening in Bangalore. And if you look at companies like Bosch, Chap, I mean, in Bangalore itself, you can find at least 50, 60 plus companies who are directly have structured programs to work with startups. And this is very, very innovative, right? And as Excubator, one of the initiatives that we are taking this year is how do we enable 1,000 plus enterprises to work with 1,000 plus startups in India in 2019. Yes. And again, we are going to use a lot of technology to achieve this. So I mean, pretty exciting time to be in Bangalore and be in India.
Okay.
Probably to answer the specific question, which we both didn't do initially. So how to make startups work with corporates easily? In fact, startups need to moderate their expectations when we work with corporates. The corporates have huge processes, procedures, management layers, and there are definitely overheads, which I don't have any qualms in admitting that we will have overheads. Our timelines are a bit slow, and there are a lot of, it's a flywheel which moves slowly. So when startups come to big brands, they think that they can immediately get market access, they can immediately get the customers of the corporate as the base. When they find that they're not able to get it within 2 months, 3 months, then there is usually a lack of motivation to continue working for that use case or a problem. In my view, you should at least give 6 to 9 months, if not 1 year, to work with a corporate, work with certain definitive use cases, and then see these are the solutions which we can provide you. You can take this to market. We can jointly take this to market. This is going to be our agreement. If you become proactive and also have a flexible timeline with some moderated expectations, that would be a good starting point for a great relationship.
Yeah, but what are then the conditions for startups in this phase, in these first 9 months?
For example, in Bosch, we have, through our program, we publish use cases. These are the problem statements which we are working for. And for these problem statements, usually we know these startups would match. Then we start a dialogue with these startups. Then there are pitch days where the startups pitch. And if there is a perfect match or near perfect match, then we go ahead and actually they are part of our alliance program or corporate accelerator program.
But do they get money or office or space or?
Yeah, we give, good question, Derk. I think I thought Debasis should cover it, but anyway, I'll cover it. So we actually give office space. We give access to our lab facilities for all your product testing, validation. We also have technical mentors. We have business model experts who can advise you on business models. So there are a lot of other, and we actually have a well-designed accelerator program, and there is a website for it as well.
I think I can build on top of that as well. So usually the engagement is fairly structured and it is long, no doubt about it. But there is, because like if you're working with an SAP, Siemens or Bosch or Daimler or any of these companies, you'll have to identify exactly how you fit because they have a very specific product. So in our case, like we had to define like 3 or 4 use cases that we are going to chase, exactly how we're going to integrate with the product. So SAP is like HANA, for instance, or Leonardo, for instance, and in what ways. And having said that, there is also the angle that once you're pitching with them, you're pitching with their sales teams as well. So their sales teams need to know exactly how drones or any other new technology fits in with their existing product and also their revenue cycles. So that part of it needs to be like seamlessly done by like Bosch DNA or any of the incubators or internal accelerators. And they're doing actually like a very good job of it. So even with SAP, we know that the engagement is long and sometimes like does not last in, does not end in 1 year.
Yeah, but how do you pay for 9 months with a team? If
In
you
our
have to
case,
comply?
we have running revenues. So
Okay.
yeah.
And you see that with most of the startups that enter the corporate accelerator or incubator?
I feel like if you're entering an accelerator or an incubator, money is not the only concern. Like you're looking for a network, you're looking for the right kind of clients, you're looking for strategic partnerships, all of those things. And I think money is the easier problem to solve, like of all of these things. So of course, like in our case, we have like running revenues which sustains the team. But otherwise, you can always raise investments from other players, like for that matter. So here.
I will come to you, Vivek. Do you have something to add, Amrita, so far?
No, I just want to say one point with respect to the money part, which Ayushi very rightfully said. So when I compare it with BIGSUN, for example, we ourselves, this initiative itself is acting pretty much like a startup, and we are doing it as lean as possible. So we do not, like Mrs. Hellwig has already put out, we do not have any funds for this, but at the same time, the biggest funds we need at the time is the time resources which all these corporates are putting in for us. At the same time, the startups are having an open mindset to come and reach out to us. So being as lean as possible, even to take printouts or things like that, we are doing it as budgeted or as in a very specified manner as possible. And I think if there is a true conviction to deal with it with beautifully passionate people, I think it can go ahead. And yeah, Vivek, I'm sorry.
So just to add to this,
very, very valid points. Yeah.
So, in terms of when we look at, corporate startup engagement, we feel like, actually startups are really looking at corporates as their customers, right? There's really no expectation that, they're going to fund my Series A or Series B. But obviously that being one of the very necessity or, one of the most important factor, because you need to have a runway. And that's where what we did was we said, okay, corporate startup collaboration is going to be focused on customer acquisition, but we are going to bring in a network of investors who will be looking at how startups are engaging with a lot of corporates. And obviously when you have traction, and that's when investors move in and they say, okay, now I have this trust that the startup really has capability to build solutions with large corporates, and I'm going to fund them. And that's where a network of investors at right time is very crucial, and that's something that, in Bangalore, I think the ecosystem is pretty matured in that way, because they constantly look at startups who are having some big corporates as part of their accelerator program or go-to-market strategy, and then it becomes, relatively easy to raise funds.
Yeah. Since you're now scaling, sorry, yeah, Margit, you're the boss.
Just wanted to, no, I'm not the boss.
Yeah,
You're the
you
boss.
are. You are.
Just wanted to say something about Germany. I think it's a great idea that Bosch is opening its DNA program to German startups as well now. And I was just wondering, how many German startups do we have in the room? Okay, right.
10. Yeah.
At least a considerable number. I mean, you may wonder what is in for you in all this, because we've been talking a lot about German corporates in India and then Indian startups, and there are plenty of them in Bangalore. Bangalore is the startup capital of India, third biggest ecosystem of the world. I don't know why you guys are all staring at Silicon Valley. Look at Bangalore. Yeah, but the German startups, they may wonder what is in for them. And I think there's a lot of in for you, because your ideas, which you can test in a Bangalore Indian environment, looking at how to scale. I mean, 1.3 billion people, no country can beat this. I mean, we have a pathetic 80 million in Germany, forget it, yeah? India is really a place you can scale your ideas, and you can get new ideas on how to bring healthcare to poor people in rural areas, for example. So there are a lot of opportunities for German startups. And somehow I think we have to break this glass ceiling whereby the Indians look at Silicon Valley, the Germans look at Silicon Valley, but they don't look at each other. And this is exactly what I would like to get to, and that is improve on the strength we have on this digital mindset in India, creative 26-year-olds, and then the expertise on engineering and these old elderly Germans being a bit slow. So bringing those together, that's what matters. And if on top of it we get the German startups come to India, I think this is what I would like to see to happen in the next 3 years.
Okay. Does any of the German startups feels like they have something to add now, or like a question on how, or based? I mean, okay. Then I have a question for you, because we now need to hear from the group that was addressed. Who was pitching? You were pitching as well, or not? No. Okay. You were pitching. Yeah, then I'll stand up, Suncrafter. Why did you never send them an email on what can we do together in India?
Actually, India was very inspiring for us to start the project, because we did travel through Kashmir, and in Ladakh there's a lot of energy poor regions, and we're doing maintenance-free solar generators. But as far as I know, India has 100% electrification rate, because they're sort of fiddling with the statistics, and in India now it's enough that one household in a village has access to power for it to be fully electrified. So I think why we have sort of lost a little bit of traction in that direction is because we have the impression the need is maybe not there anymore. And Indian startups are very strong in solving the problem themselves. But correct me if I'm wrong, because we would be extremely interested in India. We love India. We traveled through India. And as I said, it inspired us in the first place. So maybe we should chat.
Thank you
Maybe
so much for this
input. You can
input.
work on power cuts in India.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But could you address the points, please?
I think I could testify at least. So I studied in the US, came back and started a company which is in the drones AI mapping space. And having said that, like, it would have been nearly impossible for me as a foreign national to do all of those things in the US. So one advantage, of course, I got to work in India was I can do large-scale rural and urban mapping and experiment and data collect, which was important for our deep learning toolkits, and also like applications like smart cities. So from your perspective, or any other German startup who's looking at use cases which are from the future, or like use cases which are immediate, but technologies from the future, I think India has gotten to a point where we are willing to test innovative technologies. You would definitely need a guide to actually traverse the entire ecosystem in India. So I think there you have like you'd be in good hands.
But yeah. Any concerns that you can address?
Well, I mean, on this electrification issue, you're right. I mean, there may be not much in this subject anymore in India, but there are a lot of other issues related around that. I mean, I was spontaneously saying, can you work on power cuts? Because 100% electrification, that does not necessarily mean that you have power 24/7. No. And forget about the rural areas, it's not there. And there's a lot of need for, let's say, solar-powered solutions as well. So I think on the solar business and on smart cities, for example, India is a huge market. Yeah. And I have a feeling I'm talking too much, so I'm looking at Debasis over there, who may want to add something on what Bosch is doing. So let me just give up my seat. No, I give up my seat, hand over my mic, and then... No.
Okay, Margit will stay here on the first row. Watching you. No, I'm joking.
So just for an introduction.
In the microphone.
My name is Debasis. I work on the open innovation side for Bosch India. That includes, as Aravind mentions,
Closer.
a DNA accelerator program and few other programs that we're running for entrepreneurs within Bosch and also with startups that we work with. So I think on the question of electrification, we have 100% on paper, but not in reality. And also there's a huge push for solar power and other alternate power sources. So I think this is the right time to enter India if you want to do that. And I think if you have the expertise of execution at scale, then I think you should be the one to kind of come in and do it in India. because I think we have been running pilots and we have been running small scale installations, but if someone has the capability to do it at scale, then definitely we should approach it. Bosch has a very good example of that. One of the airports in South India, which is Cochin, it's in Kerala, is 100% run on solar power, and the entire, you may know about it. So the entire solar installation was done by Bosch. So these are examples which are kind of can be taken across multiple airports, can be taken across, and there are a lot of schemes to kind of set up airports in Class B, smaller towns and smaller cities across India, and many of those could be.
Also,
In addition, yeah, sorry.
just a very short remark on that. Also, I think it's a very politically correct statement because it might be true that all villages are connected, but it is not necessarily true that all houses in the village are connected. So maybe one house in every village, definitely there is electricity going there, but of course there would be some spaces there.
In addition to what Debasis said, apart from electrification, there are other topics which can actually create huge social impact if startups come out with some innovative solutions addressed to India market at large, or probably Asia market, because you can try it out in India, especially in the area of water, drinking water, health, and agriculture. These three would be really big ticket items for India if there are startups coming out with innovative solutions with the right cost model, business model. We could really also help you to scale. Yeah.
Well, you should talk more about that, because that is actually super interesting, because it's very practical, and the topic was raised by Margit, but you take it one step further, because this is, what does then exactly come in, like the knowledge, maybe the engineering knowledge from Germany, or what skills do you combine?
The startup will come with a solution or a minimum viable product. We would work with the ecosystem in Bosch. Bosch has a foundation which is called Bosch India Foundation, which is doing fantastic work in the corporate social responsibility area. And we have tie-ups with other corporate social responsibility partners with whom we can give a platform for these startups to try out their products and then look for scale.
Yeah.
Well, if you go into root cause of a problem, it's like, there's a little bit of misinformation about, what's possible and what's not possible in India, right? And one of the tricks that I always share with any startups who is not Indian is just look at the data in terms of the kind of new startups in your domain are being founded in India. If you look at electrification, you'll find that there are probably 50 plus companies founded in 2018 or 19 who are trying to solve this problem. So you know that, probably 100% electrification is not there. And if you talk to those founders, they will give you real insight in terms of, based on their market research, what they have felt. And this is not true only for electrification. I think for any, sector in India, talking to local founder is very, very useful. And I think that's something that international startups don't leverage at all. Maybe because they don't meet them. But in the time of LinkedIn and platforms like Crunchbase and all, access to data is there, right? Figure out those companies who are doing something similar. If you can complement them, it's even better. Talk to the founders and they'll exactly tell you, where the market is and what are the opportunities.
Okay. Thank you so much for your information. BIGSUN, give it up. Big applause for BIGSUN, ladies and gentlemen.